Hello my crafty friends, Corrine here from Corrine's Crafts. I hope you are well and have been enjoying your recent crafty makes. I'm having a whale of a time playing with different techniques, and today's technique is all about taking a die cut like this from Jamie Rogers Crafts and turning it into this. Isn't that phenomenal? Really a little bit different. I've actually got two here and they make the most amazing flowers like this. Put them together and this is what you create. Isn't that beautiful? So I've got these gorgeous flowers on the front of the card, and then I've also put some in white in the background. I put a nice little simple frame around, lovely bit of paper in the background, and that's my card done. I'm going to show you now how I did this. So the lovely Jamie Rogers Crafts, sent me this die set to have a go with to see what I could create. Now, these dies are melded dies, or that's how I refer to them. So you've got all the die cuts. You've got 2, 4, 6 and some centres, 6 flowers. I think they make 3 flowers because I think these pair up like that. That's how I'm going to be using them anyway. Yeah, look absolutely gorgeous. But they're cast in the metal so that they don't separate. I love melded dies because it means you've got everything to hand, you don't lose all the bits, and I find them really easy to work with. Just so you know, he also sent me this one, Rippled Star Bloom, which I've not opened yet. That's a project coming up soon. Anyway, so I'm going to use those and I'm going to use them on this. So I'm just using multi-purpose cardstock, and my topper is 4 3/4 by 4 3/4 inches. And my card base is a pre-bought 6-inch card base. So we're going to see what we can do with that. So 4 3/4 and a card base of 6. Now, the other thing I'm going to be using is, I've been right into my craft stash. I found these faux paw from Joanna Sheen. Absolutely gorgeous. I bought these years and years and years ago on Create and Craft. Look at that, they're shiny and they look like, it was when oil pouring, what do you call it? It's got a name, hasn't it, where you pour the oil onto water and then you sort of pick it up onto your project. It's when it was really popular. So Sheena created these pads, Joanna Sheen, sorry, created these pads, sorry about that, so that you could use those. Now what I love is you also get the texture of some of the papers coming through. So this is the one I've actually been using, but you can see all the sort of texture. So she must have put this onto watercolour paper before she copped the picture of it. So I know for a fact that she said she created these oil pours or water pours, whatever you want to call them, and then she photocopied and then she printed them. So yeah, so I'm going to be using that, and I'll show you how I'm going to be using that. That has cut out a piece and I've stuck it onto my 6-inch card base. Doesn't that look gorgeous? Now that's sort of going to give you my colour palette, and I'm going to then enhance that colour palette with embossing powders, silver, gold, and this is copper, quite a bronzy colour. So that's where we're going with this. So let's move this out of the way. I'll warn you now, it does get a tad messy, so we're going to do the best we can to stay fairly clean. So what I want to do is I want to cut this out, run it through, lay it over your cardstock. Really easy to do. Just lay it over your cardstock, run it out. But I'm also going to cut out Jamie's entwined leaves. Now this is a pre-production copy, that's why it's on card. I don't mind at all. Again, another melded die, and you get these. I love foliage and I think you always need them. So I'm going to cut both of those out and I'll show you what I've got. I'll put them on here. So as I mentioned, they come in pairs. So you get, in this one says you get quite thick flower and then the thinner one, and I think I've purposely not looked at any other projects made with this because I wanted to make my own mind up. So they then seem to fit really well together like that. Now I don't know if that's how they're supposed to go, but that's how I am seeing them working. It just seems to work really well for me. So there we go. So that's how I'm going to be using them. And then I've got this gorgeous entwined foliage. Isn't it beautiful? Entwined leaves it's called. I love that. This is going to, I can see these cut out of gold. I imagine them cut out of black and everything. So I want some of all of this in white, but I also want some to be decorated up. So I'm going to do this smaller one. Let's move these out of the way. Now this is where it gets tad messy. So let's move those out of the way. And the way I do it is I get myself some scrap card. Got some scrap card here. I need another piece of scrap card. I thought I had, there's lots of that up here. I got two. I need two. I'm going to not use that one. It's a nice big one. That's quite thin, so I'm going to use those. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pop those two onto there. Then I'm going to get my Versamark ink pad, which is a clear ink pad, and I'm just going to stamp over the top. Press that down nicely so it's completely, you can see it shiny on there. Don't worry that my stamp pad isn't the cleanest and it's making that a little bit, we're not going to see any of the white on that when it's finished. So let's just come in on this one too. There we go. I just want it covered all over so that it will then hold the embossing powder. Now, this is why I have two pieces of card. This is my ink pad one. Now, if I was to put the die cuts back on here and then sprinkle the embossing powder, it's gonna, can you see where it's shiny? The embossing powder would stick. So I need a fresh piece of card to do this bit. So my main colour is going to be my gold. Oops, things falling down. I've got a little spoon. I get lots of these, and I'm just going to sprinkle some of these on here. Just like that. There we go. Then I need a pair of tweezers. Pick up by a bit of white. Just tap off anything that's excess. And then I can lift that up and put that back in my pot. So that's nice and clean for the next colour. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my heat gun in and I'm just going to heat these ones up. And you can see what happens when I do that. Let's put that in the middle. So heat gun on. You might not be able to hear me talk very well, but you'll be able to see what's happening. You see where it's changing? Doesn't that look gorgeous? Now don't keep your heat gun in one place for too long or you'll scorch it. Just keep it moving. Really easy to see. Just look at that, it's gone from that dull colour to beautifully shiny. And let's do the other one. The other one will go quicker because the heat gun's warmed up. Told you. There we go. I'm trying to do it so that you can still see it. I'm trying to make sure the heat gun's not too over the top. Now, you might be able to work quite quickly and get another colour on. I'm not necessarily going to be that quick. So I'm going to get my ink pad back in. This is my piece. Remember that I put my ink pad piece. Actually, I'm going to, leave it like that. And then I'm going to get my ink pad and I'm going to go over the top again. Just pressing it down. You can ink over the embossed powders. It's not a problem. There we go. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring in my silver. This is a really old one. I don't know how many years I've had this. A lot of years. Oops, I nearly did it then. I nearly didn't swap over. Were you shouting at me? Swap your card over. Otherwise I've just wasted all that embossing powder. So I'm then just going to, very careful. Now this is why I've got a little spatula, because it means I can control, although it doesn't look like I'm controlling it very well, does it? Where I put the control where I put the powders. And then I'm going to go in with the bronzy colour or copper, whatever they want to call it, and just fill in some of the gaps. I know I've not shook off the silver, but I've used so little. It'll just follow that paint pour sort of vibe. Don't know if my room's feeling a bit damp, but it keeps sticking to it. Right, so I'm going to just going to pat that down a little bit so it doesn't blow away. Some of that will blow off because I've got quite a bit on, but I want to keep it on, so I'm just going to move this out of the way. Doesn't matter if that sets, because this is the last one I'm going to do. Can you see it all blow away? Yep, told you I'm going to get messy. I've just turned my heat gun down lower just so that it doesn't blow everything away. And look at the silver turning. Can you see? Isn't that stunning? Looks absolutely gorgeous. And then that bronze. Come on, turn. The bronze is just a little bit harder to turn. I don't know why. I'm just going to come over here a minute and do this one. Then I might just turn up my heat gun a minute. I love to watch it. So it goes molten, doesn't it? I've lost quite a lot of the gold on this. Never mind. It'll be all fine. And while you've got liquid embossing powder like that, if I wanted to put a little bit of gold on, I could always sprinkle a little bit more gold on and it will just, see it's sinking into there. This has just lost a lot of its gold. There we go. Let's just do that. Once you've done a couple of layers, you don't need to ink it again. You can get back onto it. Look. There we go. I wanted that gold there. That's better. That's much better. I'm happier with those colours. Just make sure it's all melted. There we go. And how about, I can't pick those up, they're still a little bit damp, but how about those now? And I love that you can still see all that detail coming through. Right, I'm going to put those to one side for a minute. Look, I've got bits everywhere. And I've got some that I made a little bit earlier. So I've got those there. I actually made some bigger ones, but I think they're too big for my design. And I also did one of the entwined leaves. Isn't that gorgeous? And, oh, there's a small one there, look. Really little tiny one. Oh, one's got stuck. There we are. So doesn't that look? That's the same size as I've just done. There's the smaller ones, and I've also done the centres. Right, I'm going to take those ones out of the way because they're definitely too big. So this is what I have got. I don't know. There we are. Right. Okay. But like I said, I also want some of the die cuts in the small in white. So I've got those there. Right, I just want to show you that even when you've got a melded die, you don't have to use the whole of the die. So all I've done here, look, is popped a bit of card behind the ones I wanted to cut out. And that's, so it's not you cut out any of the others. So that's perfect. So I've got a couple more of those in white. That's better. Right, now I need to put these onto my card. But I showed you my topper. It was that one. And I don't want to just pop them straight onto there. What I thought I'd do is I'd create a frame. And I'm going to create my frame like this. So I've got a piece of card and I've got a square die. So this is cuts around the outside, but it's going to create a mat layer. So I've just got one of my regular squares and I've just cut that out to make a frame. So we're going to pop that through my die cutting machine. And this is what that creates. Isn't that lovely? And that is going to go on my card topper. And that's going to go. Now I could put it in the middle, but I don't want to. I think I'm going to pop it to one side. But I'm not going to stick it down just yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop all of the white bits on that I wanted to use. So I'm almost going to create a faux emboss effect. So I'm going to use these ones. This is why I need to go with the smaller ones. So that's going to go here. And we're going to create a faux emboss just within that frame. So let's just put this onto here. And they can come right up and if necessary underneath where that frame's going. So that frame's going to go like that. Oh, that works. Then we're going to pop another one. I am going to need both of those. Let's do it like that. And then I could put that one on. Yeah, I don't want to do too much, otherwise it's going to distract from the top. So let's do that. And then put that one on. Put this one on. I just didn't stick the frame down in case more bits went over under the edge, but they're not going too bad. That's a centre. I like these centres, but it still makes a nice faux embossed background. And then what I'll do is I'll get these little bits of foliage that I've cut, and I've just trimmed into one of the entwined leaves, and I'm just going to pop that. I want it so that it might actually be seen. Let's pop it like that. It'll work when it's all done. And then let's do that one there. I can always get some more if I need to. Right, so now I've done that. Looks quite random at the moment, does that bit, but it will all come together in a minute. I'm just going to like that, and then we can come on the back of here. What I think I might do then is I'm going to put a bit, I've tested myself, so please be careful if you do it this way. I've put a little bit of glue on my hand, and then I'm just going to go round the edges to get the edge of that frame done. I know I've got my precision glue press, but this is really delicate at the ends. You could also just put some double-sided adhesive on the back of your card before you cut it out, and then you wouldn't need to tap it on your hand. But I like to do that. It just means that the edges of this die cut have then there we go, that's gone, have then got adhesive on. Make sure that's straight. There we go. It's looking pretty already, isn't it? Then, do I want to shape them? I've got a mat here. I've got these. Don't they look spectacular? They're just so metallic. Let's just do a little bit of shaping. I don't think it's going to shape too much because of the embossing powder, but I might be able to get a little bit of shape on. And even if I only sort of really shape the top layer, it'll be a bit of shaping. So then we can take this one and put... Now, it might take a bit of gluing to get this to stick, because we're sticking onto embossing powder. Now, I think I must have just had a blockage in my glue. It wasn't playing ball. So let's put those like that, and then that one will go there. Also, I think my camera had slipped, so I've managed to put that back right. So I'm very sorry if some of it's been off camera. I don't know when that slipped. And then that one, oops, it's twizzling. Lift that up. The bookbinding glue will grab, but you just sometimes got to give it a minute to grab. Okay, so let's shape these little centres, and then I think I might put those in on with a bit of 3D glue in a minute. Let's just put that on there. Love the metallic look on them. Okay, so let's bring this back in, and then we can put those two on there. And so can you see how the white just pops out from underneath? It works really well, doesn't it? Let's go underneath there. Actually, I'll do it with 3D glue because I think it'll hold it better. Tell you what, change of plan. Let's move that out of the way. I'm going to put that onto my card base first, because if I don't, I think I'm going to struggle. Right, so we all change our minds about what we're doing. So this I'm going to put onto a white layer. You know, sometimes you think, oh God, and you just get so focused on the bit you're doing and you forget to think about how it's going to be. If I try and put, I've learned the hard way that if you stick down with something like your 3D glue that's going to stay wet, and then you've got to do your mats and layers, they slip and slide. So they're best, that's nice and flat, that's stuck. That's not going to go anywhere. So you can do mats and layers once that's on. But things like the flowers on the top are just going to get ruined. And I've learned the hard way far too many times. So let's take this from there. And then get my pokey tool. You'll be pleased to know I have finally managed to catch up with videos. So I have been able to get quite a few videos ahead. So there shouldn't be any gaps in my schedule. I should be having videos when I normally do, so that's good. And hopefully I can keep that schedule going and I shouldn't slip back off again. Look at that. Just love how you got that around the edge. Do you know what? I've just made a decision. I'm going to shape these ones too. I'm going to shape this other one because I think it might be needed. Now that other one was just too big for this card that I made. This one. Now if I put this on, look, it's just going to take up the whole of there. Now if that's the look you want, that's absolutely fine, but it's not what I'm trying to achieve with this. So let's turn that over and then onto there. Put that onto there and then put that one. I might not use it. I might. Who knows? Who knows? Oh, I don't have another centre, but never mind. We can bodge something. There we go. Right, so let's put the first one on. I said 3D glue, didn't I? Let's make sure you can see what I'm doing. 3D glue, it's here. So now I've got 3. 1, 2. Oh, that works well, doesn't it? Yeah, I like that. Very different looking, isn't it? With very like the metallic, but you know, we like to do things a little bit different. Just lift these up. Let those. Oops, this one's the one I've just put together, so it's still very wet. Just lifting that layer up. We can adjust once it's all dry. Don't think it's in the middle. There we are. And then a little bit of glue under there. Let's layer them up. I always try to overlap my flowers. They're friends. Let's not have them standing to attention off into the corner. But doesn't that look lovely with the white coming out? And then I've just got the one piece of foliage. I'm going to put it this side and I'll show you why in a minute. So let's just, oops, I didn't have a good enough grip of that. Let's put that one under there. Because I have done a sentiment. So all I've done is I've done my sentiment and then I've matte and layered it onto a piece, a little bit of scrap from there. So I'm going to put some wet glue on the back of here. And I could have gone down here, but I really wanted to go there, and I think it works. Really works. So let's just get these centres. I'm just going to put the 2 centres in the 2 bigger ones. I'm going to make them slightly different. There we go. Now, you could be going with some gems if you wanted, you know, some pearls dotted around here, but I love the contrast. For me, this was all about the contrast between the absolute pure, crisp whiteness of the background with those beautiful ones. Look at that, it really works going under that frame, doesn't it? It's the contrast between the white and that quite strong metallic effect. Probably very different for florals. You were thinking when you saw those florals, we're going to do something pretty and pink and let's get all this rubbish out of the way, you know, really delicate. But how about like that? Just shows how versatile our products are. We really need to make sure we think, what else can we be doing with them? What else can we achieve? And, you know, creating something like that, which is absolutely beautiful. And I think it's going to dry up even better. Really pleased with that. Hope you like that. Please, please leave me a comment after the description to tell me what you think. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Link on the left to another video. link on the right to my subscribe button. Please don't forget to subscribe so you can see all of the content. And as you'll have seen over the last week, I've been trying to put out plenty of content to make up for the last 2 weeks that have been either non-existent or a little bit scant, but now we're back with a bang. So thank you for watching, my crafty friends. I hope you've enjoyed that. I'd love to know your views on this project. Is it something that you'd ever consider doing? Really different to what I've been doing recently, but I love it. I love it. So thanks for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing your comments, and I will see you all again very soon. And until then, bye for now.